we made it to Friday. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin some big news from the White House, where President Trump said he told Acting Director of National Intelligence Bill Whittle to gut the office. Trump says he thinks there are people in the office that shouldn't be there. Deep state purge, sign me up yesterday. Also, another banger month for jobs in America. The country adding 172,000 jobs in May, far more than the estimated 80,000 expected. This while Trump continues to also slash government jobs. Unemployment held steady at 4.3%, average hourly earnings up over 3% over the past year. And a major story is blowing up online about a social media influencer and his wife deciding to abort their baby after it was diagnosed with Down syndrome. Now, what I find ironic in this whole thing is that the same people who want you and I fired for saying the word retarded at work are the same people who are celebrating the choice of this couple for aborting a baby that would have been born, medically speaking, mentally retarded. I don't know. It seems crazy to me. But first, like clockwork, the usual Republicans let us down again. Let's do this. Four rhinos. Four Republicans voted with Democrats late last night to make sure the Save America Act did not pass. McConnell, Murkowski, Tillis, and the woman going up against Graham Platner in Maine, Susan Collins. Of course, the McConnell machine voted no because Trump just smashed McConnell's chosen replacement, Daniel Cameron, in Kentucky. Tom Tillis would have gotten wrecked if he ran again. Murkowski's a Nepo baby that was handed that seat in Alaska by her father and has no business being there. And I have no idea why Susan Collins is still voting against this. But instead of voicing displeasure, Republican leader John Thune praised her for not missing any votes.
Madam President, 10,000 votes. Not only that, 10,000 consecutive votes. That's the milestone that Maine Senator Susan Collins will hit today.
Structure over function, right? Yeah, 10,000 votes, but a lot of them were wrong. I mean, yay, you were present. Nice job. Here's your bowling trophy. 95% of Republicans support voter ID, and yet 4 U.S. senators voted no. 71% of Democrats support this, yet all the Democrats voted no, too.
Favor photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote.
You don't hate Washington enough. They deliberately give you the finger and then proceed to lecture you on how we don't understand how things work in D.C. No, things in D.C. are clearly broken. Meanwhile, Republicans are, just crossed over, and they gave more money to Ukraine. I'm sorry. How does this help Americans? It doesn't, but they voted for it anyway. In fact, one of the Republicans that voted to rein in Trump's power for the War Powers Act, Brian Fitzpatrick, to take away his authority in Iran from Pennsylvania, voted to expand war in Ukraine. I mean, make it make sense. I mean, it won't, no matter how you slice it. Think about this. 18 Republicans in the House that we own voted for money for Ukraine. Can I get a tax cut? No. Got to send more money to pay the pension system and Ukraine's municipal workers. Everything is backwards. Guys, They wonder why we lose elections. Politicians will literally stand up there and wonder why these elections are close. A guy I know who comes on this show, maybe here in a few minutes, maybe not, from time to time gave this speech back in 2012, long before Trump even came on the field, about what it sounds like to actually have a politician believe what they say.
Mr. President, Iran just shot at an unmanned drone over the international waters in the Persian Gulf. Care to comment on that? I would care to comment on that. The Republic of Iran has been at war with the United States of America since 1979. We haven't been at war with them, but they've been at war with us. So, starting this evening at midnight, I am now initiating a new policy. Please listen carefully. Of the 4,000 people we lost in Iraq, many of those men and women, most of those brave men and women, were killed by improvised explosive devices that were either planned by, designed by, supplied by, detonated by, constructed by Iran. So, as of midnight tonight, the next time that an American serviceman is killed, the Republic, which we can trace conclusively to Iranian involvement, well, the next time an American serviceman is killed, the Republic of Iran will lose an installation. It may be an Army barracks, it might be a patrol boat, it might be an anti-aircraft installation, but they will lose an installation. And for every American that's killed, they'll lose another installation. And if the Republic of Iran launches a terrorist attack upon American citizens, they will lose all of their installations. I will wipe their military off the face of the earth within 48 hours and leave them naked to their enemies for 500 years, because we can. Because we can. My job as president is to defend our servicemen. I wasn't handed 14 carrier battle groups by the American people so that I could hold them in reserve against some day. That day is here now. We welcome the people of Iran back into the world, the ancient civilization, marvelous, magnificent, cultured people who deserve a lot better than what we've got. And when I say they're going to lose an installation, I'm including the general headquarters of the Army, so you generals in Iran might want to keep this consideration foremost in your mind. This is what it sounds like when you actually believe in the civilization that you claim to represent.
Who does that sound like? Yeah, kind of like the guy we got now. You see, if Republicans want to win, and I'm talking actually win, like constitutional amendment levels of partisan victory, wipe the Democrats out, we have to stop trying to be just less bad than Democrats and start doing what we said we were going to do at any cost. And more importantly, believe in our own message. You do that, people will turn out in droves. We are in an era where Republicans don't turn out enough. The second highest midterms ever turnout was in 2022 against Biden, 75%. That means a quarter of registered voters stayed home. You know how many more Republican congressional seats we could have picked up if Republicans were just a little more motivated to get out to the polls? Probably an easy 5 to 8, maybe even more picked up. But even with liberal lockdowns of COVID and all the draconian stuff and Nina Jankowicz and the spying, Republicans were not convincing enough to get even close to 100% of their voters out because people don't believe Republicans anymore. I mean, we really don't believe Democrats, but again, the less bad theory, because all you do is say stuff and then you don't do it. I'm looking at you guys in the House. I'm looking at you in the Senate. You know how many people I know who are just like done? They're like, yeah, I'll vote for Trump, but I'm never voting for anybody again. I'm just going to stay home. Republicans did irreparable damage to the party and their credibility under Obama, to our own party by not repealing Obamacare the day Trump was inaugurated. By the way, Republicans could do that again now, and they still don't. Our health care costs keep going up, though. Paul Ryan, the speaker back then, took like 54 seats back in the midterms from Democrats on this issue with the Tea Party, repealed it 60-something times when they knew Obama would veto it, and then they never did it again while Trump was president. Then they got shellacked in the 28 midterms and turned around and blamed it on Trump. Nope, it was not Trump. It was vanilla yogurt. I take that back. They did pass it, then John McCain thumbs it down. It was these vanilla yogurt Republicans not doing what they said they were going to. Save America Act is this term's version of Obamacare. You guys run on all this stuff, and now you're not doing it. And don't give me that, oh, the House passed it. The House passes a lot of things on the sole basis knowing that it'll fail in the Senate, just like the repeal to Obamacare with McCain. Obamacare is like the perfect example I keep going back to. Also, national reciprocity, ICE funding, the Save America Act. This stuff is all passed in the House and then dies in the Senate. It's like this stupid game that they think we don't see this stuff. We do. This is every level, too. Places like my home state don't have to be blue. Republicans just got to give people a reason to vote, but they don't. Last Connecticut's governor election, only 58% of registered voters turned out. Barely half the people in my home state gave enough Fs to show up and vote. Republicans keep running, basically, by the way, the same person every time. Yes, it's physically different people, but you couldn't pick them out of a lineup. They're like the same lukewarm vanilla yogurt, low energy. Tom Foley, Bob Stefanowski. Now they're running Ryan Fazio, who, look, I know Ryan. I would love to have him win. I think he'd do a good job as governor. I've talked to him. I want to help him. I would walk over hot coals to check a ballot for him despite his vanilla non-Trump backing record. But I'm not the guy you got to convince. I went to war for the rights to vote. I'm voting. You have to give other people, non-likely voters, a reason to vote. We need leaders like most Republicans today could not get starving troops to cross the frozen Delaware River on Christmas in the middle of the night to kill people. But if we find leaders even remotely close to that, Republicans would have 100% turnout, and Connecticut would be as red as Texas. Look what Democrats do. I told you this yesterday. They had their special interest group who claims to fight racism literally by the hoods for the Klan to energize voters to keep racism alive, which was a total lie, but they did it and it worked. Bernie Sanders goes around telling people will die if they don't vote Democrat.
Thousands of people will die. Some of them will, in fact, die. Thousands and thousands of low-income and working people will die.
Tens of thousands of Americans will die unnecessarily.
And here Republicans are with a bunch of people running like noodles, doing everything they can to speak without actually saying anything, thinking we're going to see action and no actual achievement, and expect us not to notice or be mad. That's why Trump had a 10% higher turnout rate than my state did in the midterms. Give people a reason to go vote, and they will. Keep doing what you're doing, Republicans, and they won't. Senior columnist, Town Hall, Kurt Schlichter, and political commentator, the guy you just saw, Bill Whittle at BillWhittle.com. All right, Bill, that was your speech, man. And here we are, 10, my math's like 16 years later, still important.
Something like that.
Yeah. Still important, Bill.
Well, you've got to believe what you believe in, or else no one's going to buy what you're selling. That's true for if you're selling cars, or it's true if you're selling philosophy or anything else. If you don't have the courage of your convictions, then how do you expect anybody else to follow what you're saying or win them over to your side? The thing I find most compelling about modern politicians is how unwilling they are to speak the truth to their base. The things that they campaign about are things that conservative voters believe in, but when you get them to actually vote on an issue or anything along those lines, all of a sudden they just get completely gobsmacked. It's almost like it's a surprise that somebody would ask them about their values.
No, it is shocking. Kurt, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Just do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, it's not that hard. The base of the Republican Party has made pretty clear what it wants. And now it's finally figured out, they weren't listening, so let's get serious. So Tom Tillis has been dumped. Well, he was afraid to even run because he knew what would happen. Right. John Cornyn, gone. Bill Cassidy, adios. 5 losers in Indiana, bye-bye. We're done. We're finished. We're through with this. And, apparently they don't want to take us seriously. That's fine. The time will grind finally, and they will be gone. So we just got to count the days.
Right. But, this is another thing, too, is you have Mike Johnson, Bill. This guy ran all his campaigns on repealing FISA. But now he wants FISA again. And thankfully, 7 Republican senators voted against extending this stuff in the Section 702 of the FISA courts. But this is basically like, legalized spying by, oops, it was kind of an accident, but not really.
Carl, would you mind if I answer that question just on a larger scale here?
Sure.
If I was in charge of the GOP, I would make it the policy of the Republican Party that we will have no re-election to the same office. Our term limits are 1 term. If you do well as a representative, you can run as a senator. But other than that, that's it. You get 1 turn and out you go. All of this stuff is people backing up in order to get reelected to the same job. And if you don't believe that there's enough competent people to run the country in a nation of 360 million private citizens, then you're probably in the wrong party anyway. I would make that absolutely our policy. And if you were to say that there is no reelection to the same position, the Republicans would never lose again.
Yeah, but Kurt, this is the thing. You've got Maine, okay? Graham Platner. You're going to tell me that's the best the Democrats got, and then bobblehead Susan Collins, who votes on the left every single time? You got a guy who's there shouting Alu Akbar in New Jersey. You've got Ilhan Omar. You've got, Jasmine Crockett. Thank God she's gone, but Loti Talib. This is who we're putting up. Are you kidding me?
Look, I'll give Susan Collins a pass because she's the best we're going to do in Maine.
She's the least bad.
I mean, look, if the Democrats want to die on a hill, and that hill has a porta potty and Platner's inside it pleasuring himself, that's fine with me. That's cool.
That's
I
our
like
current-
watching them destroy their own credibility. And if they want to get some sort of weird-looking little heretical, gender-ambiguous demon in Texas, yeah, that's a great plan. Look, here's the secret of the Republicans. We are blessed with the dumbest of enemies.
Yeah.
And thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd never win nothing.
Yeah, that's might be the quote of the day. Kurt, Bill, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up. If you thought two-tier justice for Henry Nowak murder would affect us here on our daily lives in America, here's your wake-up call. It's already here. Marlo Anthony murder trial coming up next, or actually in a little while. But first, recapping Democrats' golden boy Graham Platner, as I just mentioned, blaming rape victims, got a Nazi tattoo, sends dirty texts to multiple women while married, and a Purple Heart veteran didn't deserve to live, according to him. And it just keeps getting worse, by the way. Next.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
My name is Karen, and I'm the head pharmacist at Corvallis Drug. This pharmacy has actually been here for over 100 years. I love the fact that I know all of my customers by name. We'll get customers come in and they're looking for a brain supplement, and Prevagen is the one I recommend. My husband, I put him on it about 6 months ago, and he's noticed a difference. I've noticed a difference in him. It's just a product that I believe in.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
All right, we broke this news in our show yesterday, but New York Times dropped this banger report on Graham Platner from his ex-girlfriend about his history of being a narcissistic abuser and that he would rape a guy for breaking into his house, but not in a gay way. It was just for, dominance, of course. Well, now the ex-girlfriend, Lindsay Fifield, is blasting the New York Times, calling them out for softening her allegations of it. That was the softened version, posting in part, where are the stories from the other women? Where are their accusations of sexual assault? Why am I in focus? Why does it say it? Nobody would corroborate when I offered them multiple sources that could corroborate. It dawned on me, she said, that this is really set up. It was a setup all along. The journalist I trusted who convinced me to share a story I never wanted to tell methodically delayed and twisted this into a gift for the Platner campaign. Comedian Arynne Wexler, who has no jokes on Graham Platner because this is all too hilarious.
Yeah, well, Carl, that they definitely would have actually investigated this on the left if his tattoo were a Jewish star or the Israeli flag and not a Nazi symbol. Then they would actually care.
If he wore a MAGA hat.
Oh, yeah.
Any of that.
Or just an American flag.
That's a bad one.
If he just cared about America, terrible. Yeah.
Right.
Then they would actually investigate this.
Yeah, then it would have been Russia 2.0. But it's crazy because I want to check back with what some Democrats' reactions who said, they believe all women and they seem to still support Graham. Watch this.
In terms of the allegations that have been waged with respect to this particular candidate for the Senate, I haven't followed it closely. I will continue to defer to Leader Schumer and Senator Gillibrand in terms of the best path forward in Maine.
Crystal Ball also chimed in. New York Times published an uncorroborated accusations. Where were they on Brett Kavanaugh?
No, I mean, we've seen this time and again, right? I'm even dealing with this myself, thankfully not in a similar way, but with accusations.
Oh, you're running for Senate in Maine, too. I will vote for you over Grant Platner.
And the 7 people of Maine will vote for me. But no, but I have a trans man now accusing me, and I thought the left is the party that believes all women, and when someone's making an accusation about anything, luckily in my case it's not something as egregious as this, they don't actually care when it's not the women that they want to have their stories.
Well, you have a trans man accusing you. So it's a dude or it's a woman?
It's a woman.
Pretending to be a man.
Pretending to be a man. They're actually a server at a comedy club.
Sorry, I always get confused.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It's a woman.
Okay.
Right? Because only women play games like this.
Right.
And
no, the Democrat men do too.
Well, same thing. Same thing.
Fair.
But yeah, there's a server right now who is getting me banned from a comedy club because they overheard a conversation of mine where I said trans is a mental illness.
Which it is.
Which it is. And I stand by what I said.
That's not even a joke.
Since I'm on air, Carl, I'd love to use this moment to just apologize to absolutely no one for what I said. I think it's very funny, actually, that this server in particular, they want to be a man, but trans is so fake, they're still acting like a little girl. So if you ever needed more evidence that this is the fakest thing that's ever happened on Earth, we have the evidence right there. But going back to all of this, yeah, I think
Hold on, before we go back to this, hold on. So they want you banned from a
No, I'm banned.
You are banned.
The ban is in effect. And you know what? Jews have been banned from plenty of places, that this is in my DNA, and I'm used to dealing with this. This is fine. But we all know if I had said anyone who votes for Trump has a mental illness, they'd be inviting me more.
Yeah.
There'd be no trouble. But the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very new to comedy, actually, which not everyone realizes, but I'm very new to the space. And I don't think I'm entitled to perform anywhere. I have to earn my right on any stage. But what's wild is that this trans server thinks it's their right and they're entitled to be offended by an opinion that they don't share and that they could actually influence someone. So I'm actually talking about this right now with you on air because I can, and there are people who don't have platforms like this to actually point out what's going on.
And I'll point out, one, I don't care really who I offend on that side of the aisle, but two, it's a comedy club.
Right.
Like, maybe don't work there if you're offended by everything.
I agree with that. I agree.
I don't know.
But I think going back to the Platner situation, I think Zohran Mamdani is probably going to try to break into his house because apparently he said he actually...
But no, he said no homo in the tweet.
If you're not looking in, if you're not looking in the eyes, I think it's fine. And it's just to assert dominance.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride to everyone.
No, but I mean, this is the thing. Platner goes out there, he goes on MS Now, and he tries to defend himself, and he doubles down. The thing like the Nazi tattoo. Watch this.
How does she know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year, and you don't know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year?
Well, she certainly didn't send that text to me. I will say that I certainly didn't know. And the text messages she's sending to friends who may have recognized it, they didn't tell me that.
How dare you not remind me of the tattoo that I got that I knew before you went and told everybody else? How dare you?
You know, there's no point in making sense when nothing makes sense on the left. But, you know, I mean, who among us hasn't just accidentally gone and gotten a Nazi tattoo on us? Like, me, yeah. No, I love the blame game of like, I didn't even know that was being taken. Not like, no, that's not a Nazi tattoo. That's not what I actually meant. But I do have to say there really is nothing gayer than the neo-Nazis. They love their leather, and I'm happy for them that it's finally June, that they get to celebrate and show exactly who they are.
Arynne Wexler, you are always right on the edge of getting me fired. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Oh, wait. You have a bunch of shows. Where are they at?
I do. Everyone can go to ArynnWexler.com. I have a new show just added to Dallas next weekend. I have San Diego coming up. Tampa sold out.
Please do Tallarico and Dallas.
Oh, I will. Oh, I am. Don't worry.
All right. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Coming up, Kathy Hochul says to hell with upstate New York. Grassland, the red areas, pledging to build thousands of acres of solar panels. And now our state's being sued for it. Great job, lady. We got that coming up next.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 five-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
The road to greatness is long, but greatness isn't just forged from within. It has to be proven on the greatest stage of all.
The hype is real! This is the moment we have all been waiting for.
Sir, he's here to see you.
So, are you ready to join forces? PCMag provides complete protection for your computer and smartphone against malware and ransomware, and it's 100% American-made and supported security.
Today, Cyberman and his unknown partner delivered a massive victory, protecting homes, businesses, and federal devices from ransomware.
Get protected now at PCmatic.com.
Planning that perfect family vacation? Dreaming of that exotic retreat? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools are ultra durable for any climate. Can be installed in weeks, not months. And have hundreds of designs, sizes, and colors to choose from. For 70 years, Latham Pool has remained the gold standard in bringing backyard dreams to life. Our pools are easy to care for, won't stain or crack, and never require costly resurfacing. Customize your personal oasis with exotic watercolors, spas, tanning ledges, and exquisite water features. And with flexible financing options, your dream is within reach. Summer installation is still possible. Don't let another year of memories slip away. Visit lathampool.com and get started today.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
The Ridge wallet is iconic at this point, but I'm just going to speak facts here. It's slim, it's RFID blocking, it's awesome, it's comfortable, I love it. I carry it every day. And then every wallet at Ridge.com has like an unlimited lifetime warranty, so you don't have to worry about it falling apart. Check it out at Ridge.com.
All right, farmers in upstate New York are real ticked off on Governor Kathy Hochul's indifference to them by forcing 18 huge solar power plants into their communities, many run by foreign companies like Canada and stuff like that. One of those companies is Boralex. It's one out of Canada that was just approved for a 530-acre solar farm in Fort Edward in the rural northern part of the state. It's habitat home to several bird species, some of which are endangered and threatened. You left used to care about that stuff. The Fort Edwards project is going forward, despite environmental concerns by a local nonprofit group, Hudsiona, who finding a 28-page report that's saying, quote, a solar PV facility will alter habitat for a minimum of 25 years and is likely the alteration will become permanent when the first cohorts of the panels ages out and replaced by new panels or other equipment for capturing solar energy. That is much different from the wildlife site characterization report of the official Department of Public Service page. That report, conducted by the consulting firm WSP USA, remember the names here, heavily redacted. Look more like an Epstein file than an environmental study. But why did Boralex use WSP to conduct this research? Oh, right. Maybe it has to do with the fact that the company board member, Marie-Claude Dumas, who also happens to be the president of USP Canada. No conflict of interest here. They're doing their own environmental survey, essentially. And just last month, the New York Department of Public Service and its Office of Renewable Energy, Sitting and Electric Transmission is being sued over those redactions because we want to know what's in them. The woman behind that lawsuit, Alexandra Fasulo, a local farmer and president of the American Land Rescue Fund, and Mark Walczyk, I may say that wrong, New York State, yeah, there you go, New York State Senator up there representing a large swath of the upstate counties where Hochul's plans to bulldoze and kill everything in there. All right, so Alexandra, I look at this and I'm like, I am an outdoorsman and an avid carer of the environment. This stuff drives me insane. But the same people who protested a 100-wide cut for the Dakota pipeline, nope, 530 acres, we're going to turn into nothing.
Yeah, Carl, thanks for having me on. And really, the project footprint is a lot larger than 500 acres. That's just what will sit under the panels. They are leaving out the perimeter fencing, the access road, the transmission lines. They're leaving out everything else. That's also going to result in mass destruction of one of the last grasslands of its kind throughout the entire Northeast.
Yeah, Mark, I got to ask, though, like, has anybody done like a site survey on this stuff? Like, hey, we could put up one nuclear power plant. It would take like 6 acres and it would do 10 times more power than all this solar.
Carl, you're absolutely right. And no, in fact, they used to be environmental extremists. They're no longer for the environment in New York State. They are willing to destroy the environment to save the planet by making more electrons through these choice green energy projects like solar panels. Their expansion is looking at 20 gigawatts of solar, hundreds of thousands of acres, and they will plow any grassland, forest land, or even this week, the New York State Senate passed a bill for floating solar panels on New York's waterways. You can make this stuff up.
I hate these people. All right, but we did actually, to be fair, reached out to the Department of Public Service for a comment, and they actually responded saying the ORS, the process ensures environmental impacts are avoided or minimized involving robust community engagement. Clearly not, you guys weren't engaged in that community part. And they only reviews the permit applications after willing landowners decide to lease their land. Far more farmland is lost to other types of development than is used for solar. But aren't they plowing down like one of the last remaining open grasslands to do this, Alexandra?
Yes, they are. And if they cared about the environment, first of all, and the decommissioning for this complex, they allow the foreign corporation, Boralex, soon to be Brookfield, since it was acquired this past spring, soon to be Brookfield, they allow the developer to abandon the equipment in the earth at 3 feet or below that. So if they cared about the environment, they would have a very different commissioning plan requirement, and they would not allow these corporations to redact every single piece of sensitive environmental information.
That seems, so they're just going to bury the bulldozers. That sounds really good. Mark, the Hudsonian report, the authors write, it's unclear to us why the applicant, their consultants, and the regulatory agencies opted to redact large portions of this wildlife reports. Why did they do that?
They did that because, according to our state's own Department of Environmental Conservation, 10 of the top 11 species of concern at grasslands in New York State live at this grassland.
Yeah. Mark, real quick to you.
Yeah, one of the issues that you brought up, Carl, is the community involvement with the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. They have rolled our communities in New York.
Yeah, no, that actually checks out. They do that a lot of these times. Alex, Mark, I wish you the best of luck, and we hope you keep us posted on this.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
cool.
Carl.
Coming up, Florida has over 10 million voter mail-in ballots, and they're still able to get results, I don't know, on election night. Yet California, we might not know for weeks what the hell is going on there. Culture Clash next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Ever wished you could brew your own beer, but figured it was too complicated, too messy, too much effort? Well, now you can. Meet Pinter, the home beer system everyone's talking about. Fresh beer, brewed and tapped by you. No fuss, no guesswork. Just brew, chill, tap, done. And this summer of soccer, bring match day home with the limited edition USA Pinter. Keep fresh beer on tap for every big moment. Host the ultimate watch party and bring the stadium atmosphere home all tournament long. Fresh beer on tap for every big match. You don't need a sports bar for the ultimate summer of soccer, just a pinter. Right now, get your limited edition pinter free with our flexible beer plan and save $264. Tap into the world's best beer experience. Free pinter. Freshly brewed beer. Zero fuss. Go to pinter.com/USA to claim your offer today.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
My husband is Miguel Cervantes, who was a firefighter with the Rancho Cucamonga Fire District. That's what he absolutely loved. My husband's cancer is directly related to his service as a firefighter. My immediate thought after he was gone was, how am I going to do this? Tunnel to Towers said that it would be their honor to help me out by covering my mortgage. To say that it's been a weight lifted off my shoulder would be an understatement.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya. Tremfya can help with remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years. Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Guess what? Looks like California is a third world country because they're still counting votes from the primaries on Tuesday. Today, Steve Hilton had enough, called out Democrat leaders.
Like every other normal place, not just in this country, but in the world. Look at the way Florida does it. Within hours, you have the results. Florida has mail-in ballots. Florida has early votes. Governor DeSantis prides himself on doing this properly.
He's right. Why can every other state, even like freaking Iraq, figured this out? They can count their votes in a timely manner. Might be because Democrats in California don't care about this, okay? They need to know how many Republican votes are in, and then they can decide how many Democrat. Rasmussen reports this. They pointed out probably the greatest thing. Huge Pratt-free LA ballot drops. Get this. Bass gets 12,853 in the middle of the night. Rahman gets 9,521. Miller, I don't even know who that is, gets 1,227. Some other people get 1,233. That was the other category. You know how many Pratt got? Boom, right there. Zero, donut, nada. So 24,000 ballots come in and not one for Pratt. That is a statistical impossibility. Grace Curley, host of The Grace Curley Show, and Cliff Maloney, CEO of Citizens Alliance and author of Run Right, a complete election playbook. When Cliff, this is, I can't say that word on TV.
Yeah, it's absurd. I mean, it's a laughingstock to think that it's going to take weeks to be able to figure out not just the statewide results, but look at LA County. I mean, 700,000 ballots within the county in a race that's got, Spencer Pratt only up 33,000 votes. The least they can do, Carl, the least they can do is come out and say, here is the total number of ballots that are outstanding. Yeah. That would at least give us some confidence to know what we're dealing with.
Grace, they're literally doing it right in front of our face, and they're saying, no, we're not.
Yeah, and it's by design. Like you said, there's plenty of other states, there's plenty of other places around the world that can do this a lot faster. Think of all the technology we have today. Think about all these conversations we hear about with AI and all these takeovers, and yet it takes this long to count ballots. And the part of this that I find really depressing is that there's all this talk about if Spencer Pratt doesn't become mayor, he's going to leave LA. I think there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that were looking at him as kind of their last hope and their last reason to stay. And I think there's going to be a massive exodus of LA if he doesn't get a fair shake at this.
Yeah, and well, he's just going to hook up his trailer because his house burned down and leave. So will a lot of other people. All right, Pride Month, day 5, Cliff. New York is getting rid of the word mother. The New York Democrats passed a bill earlier this week that would replace mother with gestating parent in a state child custody and parental laws thing. The new bill would also replace father with non-gestating parent. Can we just be normal?
No, we can't, Carl. I mean, this is what I call the real war on women, right? I can't believe this is what we're seeing. But here's the thing. I love it. Let's see more of this. This is only going to help Republicans because normal people look at this and say, what in the world are they talking about? Blue collar workers who might think that they're still kind of that working class Democrats, they're pushing those people so far away with all of these woke policies. So I'm here for it as a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Unfortunately, we just got to deal with it through that time frame. Just like this one, in the New York City Council, they're hosting a Pride Ball, and I guess they have nothing better to do because, you know, that's what they do. I mean, look at this. This is just like the biggest conglomeration of freak shows. I mean, I would rather watch paint dry. We got you there, Grace?
Yeah, sorry, guys. I was thinking about what Cliff was just saying about the mother thing for a second here. I think that Cliff is really onto something because people do point this out. People do notice this stuff. And really, the pendulum was swinging for a minute there where people were starting to figure out, oh, we're going too far to the left. We kind of reached peak wokeism. And really, there was a point where you were looking at these elections and you were thinking all the Democrats have to do is appeal to the middle. All they have to do is not be crazy. And it seems like that is an impossibility for this party.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so maybe full throttle on the gay for the next month, and we'll see what happens at the end of the month here. All right. I got to get to this, though. This is like this new dating thing. It's a new dating trend. OK, it's very bizarre. It's wildflowering, which basically means there's no pressure and you can get rid of it. We just like this. Basically, the new theory is like everybody be like Jenny. Cliff?
Yeah. And look, I mean, I don't want to call out the left, but this is the left winning. I mean, the nuclear family is the one thing that scares them, right? So any of this promiscuous stuff, I mean, you know, their dream is for everyone to get into a throuple and do these wild things. Just one woman, one man, have a family, live a normal life. It's the American dream. The left is so anti-tradition. I'm not a fan of this new wildflowering.
But Grace, real quick, it's like, you don't want any stability in your life? You just want to do a bunch of drugs and date everybody?
Well, I also just don't think it's right to encourage people not to go into dating and set some parameters of what you want, you know, what you want out of this life. I think that's a very actually fair question. I used to think this when I was younger. I was like, oh, going into a date and asking people what they think of marriage or what they think of all these things, it's too much. And maybe you wait for the second or third date, but you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to go on like 15 dates with someone and then figure out that they have no plans to have a family or they have no similarities or commonalities with you. I actually say clear it up in the beginning, and if it's not working out, you can go your own way.
Right, and I think there was a song about putting a ring on it or something, but what do I know? All right, Grace, Cliff, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
Coming up, the mob's outrage over no black jurors in the Kamaro Anthony murder trial. So by their logic of self-defense, where was the outrage for Daniel Penny and that jury? Next.
This is a bottlenose dolphin. And this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped dolphins age healthier. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, it can help you age healthier too. Discover how at Fatty15.com.
Take back your weekend and give your yard a professional quality cut in less time with the DR Pro Max 30 wide area mower. The 30-inch cutting deck means you mow more grass with each pass. The powerful DR engine and dual blade design ensures every blade of grass you mow is cut into a fine mulch. The DR Pro Max 30 is a powerful machine that mows more grass in less time and will leave your lawn with a better cut so you can take back your weekend.
You may not realize it, but clogged gutters can do damage to your overhang and trim, your landscaping, flower beds, foundation, even your basement. That's why homeowners choose Leaf Guard, the only seamless one-piece rainwater management system with a clog-free guarantee. Leaf Guard has earned the Good Housekeeping seal 20 years in a row and comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. And now would be a great time to call during our Ugly Gutters sale. Trade in your old gutters. We'll even take them down, haul them away, and give you up to $500 for your old gutters towards your Leaf Guard purchase. Zero down and payment starting at just $75 a month. And remember, Leaf Guard's attached to the fascia. It's not coming down. And if you call right now, I have a nice gift for you, a $100 Visa gift card with your in-home estimate. Call 800-541-1274. Now let me give you that number again. 1-800-541-1274.
I have recommended Leaf Guard to a couple of our neighbors.
They're a very professional company.
And one day they just made them all right there on spot.
With Leaf Guard's exclusive Big Mouth, the extra large opening and oversized downspouts can handle up to 32 inches of rainfall an hour. And our fascia wrap adds an extra layer of protection against water damage with a secure foundation to attach Leaf Guard. During our Ugly Gutters sale, trade in your old gutters. We'll take them down, haul them away, and give you up to $500 for your old gutters toward your Leaf Guard purchase. Zero down and payment starting at just $75 a month. Let me keep your gutters clean forever. And if you call right now, have a nice gift for you. A $100 Visa gift card with your estimate. Call 800-541-1274. Now let me give you that number again. 1-800-541-1274.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Could you imagine a white person claiming they can't get a fair trial with a black jury? That's what happened in reverse in the Carmel Anthony case. The mob is now decrying the fact that there's no black people on the jury and therefore he won't somehow get a fair trial. This is the reason race relations continue to plummet in America, by the way, because every time we have a crime, the BLM movement takes the black guy out of the equation and makes him the victim and then always tries to make the white guy the bad guy. And America is done with this stuff. You remember this case? April 2025 at the Frisco, Texas high school. White dude at a school track meet, starts raining. Carmel Anthony walks into the opposing team's tent and was asked to leave a bunch of times. Austin Metcalf, the white guy, the victim here, walks up to him and tells him to leave. Anthony reaches into his bag and says something to the effect of, "Touch me and see what happens." So Metcalf then pushes him. Anthony takes out a knife and stabs him in the chest, kills him, dies in his twin brother's arms. Yeah, your initial reaction is probably the same as mine. Like, what the hell is a high school kid doing with a knife in his backpack at a school track meet that you're not allowed to have on school campus, which he was on? I mean, it's its own issue. So the defense team claims that Anthony was in fear for his life and that he was somehow about to get jumped, which he was not. The whole thing is on video. The jurors have seen it, and apparently it doesn't portray that at all. We're waiting for that to be released publicly. So fast forward to now. There's this jury selection. Look, we all get that letter. You got to show up to jury duty, do your civic duty, whatever. And the goal then for both the defense and the prosecution is impartiality. So they whittle this thing down, almost the final jury, and the prosecution uses preemptory challenges against the only remaining 3 black jurors. Not because they were black, but because they were all teachers, and the story had been widely circulated throughout the school districts, which made the case that they could not be impartial and they were predisposed to judgment. Keep in mind, many of the other potential black jurors had already been dismissed for very clear biases, specifically being cited during the questioning by prosecutors, quote, "I don't know if I feel right putting a brother in jail," another reportedly saying he looks like a child, some outright saying that they could never send him to prison or believed he was innocent and could not be impartial, which tracks with the mob outside the courthouse, too.
If evidence does come out that Carmelo was not in fact fighting for his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the black community will accept that?
If evidence shows that he did not, no, we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs.
Yeah, I seem to remember 2 white jurors on the OJ trial ultimately voted not guilty for him killing his white wife. There's not one shred of evidence that's in the public, I should say, that this decision to dismiss these jurors was based on skin color at all. And there is a great deal of evidence that it was based on the inability to be impartial. Just because the jury isn't comprised of what the mob wants, which in this case is predominantly black, that doesn't mean it's racist. These jurors were disqualified because they admitted they could not follow the law or presume innocence or guilt and adjudicate guilt fairly. So the defense team has invoked what they call the Bastin rule. What's that? Well, Bastin v. Kentucky prohibits excluding potential jurors based on race. It protects the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So now the defense is going to have to prove that they were removed based on race, which in this trial does not appear to be the case. It's going to be a tough thing. And their sole argument seems to be that they don't believe their client can get a fair trial with only white people, which is actually making the opposite case that they're trying to... So it's as stupid as it sounds. This would be the same thing as the parents of the victim saying they didn't want any black people on the jury because they didn't think their case would be fairly heard by them, which is not a thing either. Either way, the defense mountain in front of them. They've already not been truthful. For one, the kid had a knife at school, saying that Anthony was not the aggressor.
He was not an aggressor. Carmelo was not an aggressor. He was minding his damn business when them boys came up to him.
But he wasn't minding his own business. He was asked to leave their tent that he entered multiple times, and we're now finding out that this may not have been the first time he had an altercation. When the prosecution interviews Anthony's father, they questioned him about a suspension in the school year earlier for fighting. His defense made the case that he was only 5'8" and 130 pounds. He was scared by the big 6-foot-tall white guy. Well, according to what looks like his recruiting profile, same name, same jersey number, same age, same school, probably him, 5'11", 162 pounds. Kind of falls apart. I'm just curious, though, where was all the outrage from the same people when Daniel Penny was up on trial? As we now know, wrongfully charged. Or is this just blind racial allegiances? Because that's what seems to be happening here. And this country is not done by mob rule. We are not doing that anymore. BLM burned down $2.5 billion worth of our cities on mob rule. That's over. Fairly adjudicate this with non-biases. All right, before we go, a fishy situation out of a South Carolina police department, but this situation might have you siding with the bad guy. Next.
Closed captioning by America Tax Group. Stop IRS and state collections. Free consultation. Call now.
America Tax Group is the nation's leading tax firm that has helped millions of taxpayers resolve penalties, remove liens, and stop wage garnishments. If you're dealing with IRS or state tax issues, don't wait. Call now.
Think you need a new roof? Think again and save thousands. We'll help you put off the high cost of a roof replacement for at least 5 years.
Or 10.
Or sometimes even 15.
We're America's most trusted roofer because we always try to save your roof rather than replace it.
We'll restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a new one. But don't wait. If your roof loses too much protective coating, it's too late. Call now or scan the code and we'll give you an assessment of your roof for free.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
IRAs and 401ks were designed to account for a 2% rate of inflation. The idea was you could apply a 4% withdrawal rate and it would last. Inflation is at 3.8%, but when you account healthcare, insurance, food, and energy, the real rate is 8%. Gold's role isn't to make you rich, it's to help you survive what's coming. Call Patriot Gold Group at 1-800-778-4156. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the America 250 no fee for life IRA. Call 1-800-778-4156 and see how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver. Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Another lost spring break? Turns out, the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools are ultra durable for any climate. Can be installed in weeks, not months. And have hundreds of designs, sizes, and colors to choose from. For 70 years, Latham Pool has remained the gold standard in bringing backyard dreams to life. Our pools are easy to care for, won't stain or crack, and never require costly resurfacing. And with flexible financing options, your dream is within reach. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. It's never too early to start planning for a lifetime of memories. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
Dare I say, a fishy situation out of South Carolina. A police officer in deep water after he was arrested and fired for allegedly aiming a gun at a fellow cop for microwaving fish at their station. Look, I feel you, bro. Some could say he got caught in the act, dare I say. But Michael DeBase, a detective with the Myrtle Beach Police Department, was charged with pointing and presenting a firearm at a person on Tuesday in the briefing room. Look, I'm not saying he's right, but I think the officer microwaving the fish at work should also be arrested. I mean, that is such a horrible thing. Now, the Myrtle Beach Police Department releasing a statement saying this incident does not reflect the values demonstrated by the men and women of the, yeah, I would hope not, Myrtle Beach Police Department every day. However, it does demonstrate our commitment to accountability and our willingness to address conduct that falls. He aimed a gun at a guy for microwaving fish. Are you kidding me? But this is where the MPD statement, and don't microwave fish at work. Put that in every room at the precinct, man, and put it. We have a sign here that says you can't do that. We also can't do popcorn. We can't do fish. We can't do a bunch of stuff. Nobody's pointing guns at each other. But, I mean, this is like common decency. Both people should go to jail. Verdict, Schmidt, don't microwave fish.
I totally agree. We used to vacation in Myrtle Beach when I was a kid. That's a very Myrtle Beach story. I don't know who the hell microwaves fish in the first place. It's disgusting.
Somebody
Pulling
does it
the gun
here.
on the guy is hilarious. I mean, as cops, like that's a hilarious thing to do. But that's just a very Myrtle Beach story. That's a good one. I love that story.
All right, brother.
Good to see you, Carl. Have a good weekend. All right.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.